Welcome to the Content Amplified podcast, brought to you by Masset. Our goal is to help you get more from your marketing content. Each episode is a 10 to 15 minute interview with industry experts that share amazing insights to help you squeeze as much juice from your content as you possibly can. Here's today's interview.
Welcome back to another episode of Content Amplified. Today I'm joined by Sushi. Sushi, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ben.
Well, before we dive into the subject, which I think is super powerful for us to talk about today, Sushi, tell us a little bit about yourself, just a little bit about your background, and let us get to know you.
Sure. So, Ben, as you know, I'm currently the CMO of a company called LTI Mindtree. This is actually a technology services company which is headquartered in India, but with global presence. And we do digital transformation for many of our Fortune 500 clients. And I've just joined them recently. Before that, I was the global marketing head for AWS for segments. So leading all the go-to-market for AWS, for enterprise, SMB, startup, and ISV segments. I was, previous to that, I spent a long time in Compaq and HP, working across the globe, actually, in many different product categories. So I have both a very strong B2C and B2B kind of background because of having done many consumer products and then very enterprise and commercial products in HP. In between HP and AWS, I did a stint with a biotech startup. So that was a complete different scenario for me, from tech to biotech, from large established corporation budgets and people to going to a startup where literally I was their first marketing employee and creating something from scratch. So they were in the cannabinoid space called Creo. And I describe myself as a marketing nerd. I just love every aspect of marketing. And I live in Palo Alto, and I love coming on and shows like yourself and, learning from people like yourself and other speakers and sharing whatever I know.
I love it. And I think this is going to be a great conversation. I always get excited when someone describes themselves as a marketing nerd. I think that's a lot of fun. You're in for some really good insights. So I'm excited for the conversation. So today what we're going to talk about is really, I think, important for every marketing member and team. And it's really, how can you have marketing have a full seat at the table and be a growth center and not just a cost center? So Sushi, when you're looking at this, how do teams make that transition and how do they really facilitate making that change?
Yeah, great question, Ben. So I think marketing in many organizations has already done this. I know in the B2B space specifically, this is a really big thing because, you absolutely measured on the funnel and the velocity of the funnel and how you are, how many leads you're generating. So I think this, transition is already happening. To me, it is a bit more holistic when you talk about, marketing getting a seat at the table and being able to transform from an expense center to a growth engine. I think typically, in many companies, marketing has always been that last mile function. It's always been almost like a service, an extension of the agency function where, okay, this is what I need in terms of an ad or a social post or go, do this event. And I think that marketers are so much more capable because we are really the voice of the customer. And what we need to bring into the organizations is that voice of the customer, having the most amount of insights on, who's our customer, what are their challenges, what are their motivations, what are they thinking, and how, as a brand or a business or a product or a service, can we actually solve their challenges and make them better at what they do. And I think that that is primarily the role of marketing. The way to make this change is really to be very, very well versed, not only in your customer insights, but also, developing a holistic marketing strategy, being able to demonstrate and build a customer buying journey, and laying out across the sales funnel, across the customer buying journey, how does marketing intersect? What is the kind of messaging that you need to build for the customer at every stage? What is the best form of content or the content strategy that will deliver on it? And how do you activate that in a multi-channel approach rather than just doing your traditional events or email marketing? And I think if you use data to be able to measure at every stage of the buying journey how marketing is impacting and how it's moving the customer through that buying journey, through the sales funnel, is really the way to earn your seat at the table. And by also going beyond just the lead generation, by really building value in terms of the strategy for your business. So, helping them fine tune their product value propositions, helping them fine tune, who should be the audience they should go after, what's the competitive advantage, coming with a lot of innovation and insights. I think as marketers, the best thing that we can do is to bring data and innovation to the table. And I've seen that, sales teams and, product teams as well are so open when you come up with new ways of engaging the customer, with new ways of helping them make connection with new logos or even expand their businesses in their existing accounts. They're so open to, let's go and try and do something new, as long as you have that belief that, okay, this is what I'm suggesting, this is how we will measure it, and this is how we'll optimize. I always tell my sales teams that just as you optimize your account plans as you go along in marketing, also today there's a lot of optimization to be done, and not everything will work 100%. And so, you also have to learn from what didn't work and optimize and go ahead. But if you have that belief, that confidence, that data, that insights, that measurement and accountability approach to say, listen, I'm in this with you and I want to be measured. I tell my CEO that I wish to be measured on revenue. I wish to be measured on the amount of leads that I get. And, when I enter in a meeting and I speak from a customer's point of view, I talk about the journey, I talk about working across the funnel, I find that I get a lot of traction because there's data behind what I'm speaking. And so, if we are able to measure, demonstrate, and show, we will get that seat at the table.
I love the approach there, the innovation and the data. That's what people are craving at the table. And I think that's so powerful to say, if you can provide those things as a marketing department, you're going to be able to have that seat. People are going to invite you there. I guess another question to follow up is, how do we make this impact on culture? How do we influence the culture and help it really kind of take hold?
It's always difficult because this involves a lot of change management. But the change management, we always tend to say, oh, but sales doesn't listen to this. And, our C-level is not open to that. But actually, for me, the change starts within ourselves. I think marketers have to start believing that what they're doing is not a service, what they're doing is a partnership. Mentally, they have to make that change. Mentally, they have to become open, and not only open, but actually embrace this idea of accountability, taking these goals, bringing this data and looking at every which way. Attribution's not a perfect science, so I understand if you feel that, hey, I don't want to set myself up for failure, because attribution is not 100% fixed, our tools are not 100% there. But I think that what people look for is, are you making an attempt? Do you really have, even if it's 70 to 80% good data, do you come to the table with that thinking and that ideas? And the best way that I always tell my team is, quickly go for the quick wins and establish your credibility so that you can lead to larger transformation. So I think it's a mental change that we have to do within ourselves as marketers. I think we have to be willing to experiment and learn and fail and build on our successes. So we have to get open to thinking that we should try innovation and try these different new things. And if we fail, we learn from it. Of course, if we fail at everything or we make the same mistake twice or thrice, the organization is not going to have that much patience for us. And also to start thinking that we must begin with everything being rooted in the customer. Many times, and I go sometimes, and I'm guilty of it as well, where you start making decisions based on, what's going to be an easy thing to sell internally. You go with things that are going to be easy to sell, which is going to carry everybody in the company along. But that's not the right way to look at it. We shouldn't be looking at it from an internal perspective. We need to start really begin from the customer. And if we do that 100% shift in our way of thinking, that will also impact the way marketing can earn a seat at this table. So from a culture perspective, it has to become a culture that is bringing in innovation, is agile, is open to failing and learning. As leaders, we have to create that safe space where people feel that they can actually do these thoughtful innovations, where they have the space to fail and learn, where they can bring new thinking and new ideas to the table. We have to bring empowerment and accountability, not micromanage, but really give people the necessary coaching and also give the empowerment, but ask for accountability in turn, and encourage risk taking and encourage, a human approach as well. I think what differentiates in my mind, at least when I look at leaders I have always aspired to be, they've always led with a very human approach. And I think in today's time, that's much more important, because when you make this shift in becoming a growth generator, when you move away from the traditional so-called role of marketing, you are insecure, and you're putting yourself out at risk, because you're not doing just the the design or the service aspect. So building that security, building that human empathy is also so important. And you will see, as we change ourselves as marketers, the sales, the product teams, they will start responding. And that culture shift will happen. And, marketers will get into boardrooms eventually in a much more important fashion. I think it's already there in CPG, in many of the consumer goods companies. Frankly, marketers have been CEOs as well. But I think in the technology world and other places, it will happen as this transformation gets more and more into place.
I love that. I think that makes a lot of sense. The whole point of getting the culture to be on board with this and to understand, and I love how you're addressing also as a marketer to embrace this new concept of what marketing is and to be okay with that new direction. And really embracing the accountability. When it comes to data, and you talked a lot about that there, and culture and having a seat at the table and accountability, what are some recommendations there of data points? Often in marketing, we'll have, vanity metrics. How can we bring meaningful data to the table to also help people in marketing have more of a seat in the table?
Great question, Ben. So first, let me tell you that there is no perfect answer that anybody has found in this world. We are still evolving and growing in this particular field. I don't look at impressions and all that anymore. I think those are irrelevant matrices. For me, what is important is how has the engagement been? Have you seen the customer taking the next step in the journey? So, having some of basic marketing automation and CRM platforms is so critical, whether it's a Marketo, a HubSpot, or whatever, making sure that you're able to track, did your activities lead the customer to taking the next step in the journey with you? Being able to track whether something came from a social post, an event, your website, what did they engage with? And there are tools today that help you do that. And did that finally lead to a response or an unqualified lead? Were you able to nurture that lead to become a marketing qualified lead? And then did sales really accept it? And sometimes that's where everything breaks down, where marketing says, hey, I give so many marketing qualified leads, but sales does not accept those leads many times, even though they are, qualified by budget, authority, need, and time, what we call band. And I think it's important that that bridge be crossed as marketers with sales to ensure that the rules of engagement are very clear on how that marketing qualified lead becomes a sales qualified lead and later is an opportunity. So there are systems. Is there a clear attribution model? No. Is the system 100% foolproof, accurate? No, because it's as good as the data that goes in. So I find now, for example, you put in all your data in your CRM, but then you're not updating the action. What really happened with the customer? How did you touch him or her? What was the action? What was the next action? It doesn't happen. And many times as marketers, we are at fault because we do an event and then we just hand over those leads to the sales guys and we forget about them. But that's not the way to look at it. We have to look at things from a journey and a nurture perspective. So you got leads at a event. Now, how are you nurturing them? How are you actually building the journey at this right stage, then handing those leads over to your sales teams? So for me, that is more critical, and there are data and there are systems and there are tools that allow us to do this now. Is it 100% correct? No. But whether it's using a model, a tool like Marketo or HubSpot or a demand base or any of these other things that allow us to get more intelligence, whether it's using everything that comes on in Adobe Experience Manager, whether it's being able to measure what's happening on your website, where the customer is engaging, what's the stickiness. All of those things are more important than, frankly, impressions or, some of the old traditional ways. Even for brand, I think, today there are so many ways to measure whether the brand, whatever work you're doing around the brand, is that really improving your brand health? Of course, ultimate thing is your valuation and your share price. But even before that, you can do online surveys. You can see how many people are going to a certain page that you're promoting, or how many visitors you're getting to a microsite that you might have built, or whatever ways to really figure, what is the impact that you are creating.
I love that approach. What's the impact that you're making and how does that impact data? Well, Sushi, we have run out of time in this episode. I've learned a ton. I love this mentality of getting organizations and marketing teams on board with really where they should be and what they should do. And I've learned so much. If anyone wants to reach out and further their conversation online, how can they find you and connect with you?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. So Shuchi Sarkar, I think that's how you can find me on LinkedIn. And so best way to connect with me is on LinkedIn, because I always respond when I see messages come through.
Perfect. And we'll link to your profile in the show notes. Again, thank you so much for the time today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Ben. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you for listening to the Content Amplified podcast. Please subscribe and leave us a review. And for additional ways to get more out of your content, visit our website at getmasset.com. That's getmasset.com. And tune in next time to the Content Amplified podcast.